Hi, it's Dave here, and I'm with my wife, Cathy.
Hello.
Who has a huge smile on her face.
So happy.
I've never actually seen you this happy on a Cinemile.
Really?
No, look, you
I'm
were
so happy.
beaming.
I've just stopped singing Wind Beneath My Wings.
Oh.
And I'm veering between that and Otto Titzling.
What's that?
You'll know soon enough.
Oh, God. Okay, so if you haven't guessed already, we're about to watch Beaches. It's our 150th episode, I should say.
Yeah.
First of all. So... or should I explain what we are first? We're the Cinemile. We walk home from the movies.
We walk home from the movies, and that's our podcast. But today is a very special event for us because it's our 150th. And we were not organised and didn't really plan anything. Like, we had kind of a couple of months ago talked about trying to do a live show, trying to get organised. No, we can't organise anything. So then last week we had the brainstorm of what will we do to mark this special event.
What can we do that involves us sitting on the couch, drinking wine, and ordering takeaway?
Yeah, we ordered a takeaway.
And turns out we found the solution.
Well, we're both really excited because we often try and convince the other one to watch movies. And no, we always agree on a consensus, but there's often a movie I really want to watch or Dave really wants to watch that neither of us will get on board with.
And I'm sure most couples will identify with that.
Yeah.
You're sitting on the couch, you're looking for a movie, and then one person in the couple says, "Oh my God, you've never seen X movie? You have to watch this movie." But the other person absolutely refuses for whatever reason. Adamantly refuses.
So tonight, for part A of our 150th episode.
Well, you should say we're doing two parts, and one of those parts is Cathy's choice for a movie she's always wanted to watch with me and I've always refused.
Yeah.
And the second part will be the reverse of that. So a movie I've always wanted to watch with Cathy and she has never watched with me.
Yeah, so I don't know Dave's choice yet, and you'll learn that soon enough. But my choice for tonight is Beaches. I struggled with this because there's a lot of movies that I really like, but I'm not a huge rewatcher or like a fan in the sense that like Dave might be for something like Ghostbusters or Star Wars or whatever. I have movies I really like from my childhood and that I've watched a lot, but I just none that I could think of that I was obsessed with. And then kind of midway through this week, I suddenly went, oh my God, it's Beaches! What took me so long? Beaches is a movie that as a kid, my sister and I, my sister Jackie, who's been on this podcast lots, we went through a phase where we watched Beaches, like, I'm not joking, possibly 3 times a day. Like, we were
three times a day?
Obsessed.
I don't believe you.
Dave, it was the early 90s in Ireland and we had nothing else to do. How could you fit that in
3 times a day?
It must have been school holidays or something. I just remember us rewinding, watching again. Oh my God. Now, it's iconic. It's an iconic movie because of Bette Midler's song, Wind Beneath My Wings, right? Even you know that.
I gotta say, I thought Barbara Streisand was in this.
Okay, yeah. I mean, people do mix them up. They're both divas with amazing voices. But I'm a Bette Midler fan.
Who's the other woman?
The other woman, according to the synopsis I'm looking at here, is called Barbara Hershey.
Oh, that's our takeaway.
Oh, takeaway.
All right, just follow me to the door. All right, stay with us, listeners. We're gonna go get our food. Buggy's in the way.
So,
Hi there, how are you?
I'm fine. Order from
That's it. Yeah, thank you very much. Have a good one. All right. The food's here, so let's wrap this up so we can eat. Right, what were you saying? You were harping on about this movie.
On to Beaches. So apparently the other woman's called Barbara Hershey. I have to say I didn't know that, and I've never seen her in anything since, but she is brilliant in Beaches. Do you even know what Beaches is about?
All I know is that wild child Bette Midler and prim Barbara Hershey become unlikely best friends until tragedy threatens to tear them apart. And if I were to describe this movie in one sentence, I would describe it as a timeless tearjerker.
Yeah, that's a very good
That's just off the top of my head.
Okay. It says contains strong language, and it's 12s. So I think I was a lot younger than 12 when I was rewatching it.
Well, strong language back in the 80s for a 12... Actually, no, I think you can get away with more language in a 12s these days, can't you?
No, you could have probably got more in the 80s. But anyway, we digress. It's an amazing movie, and Dave, it is a tribute to you because you are the wind beneath my wings.
Shut up.
And it must be cold there in my shadow, right? You never get any sunlight on your face.
I have a real issue with those lyrics.
Why?
Because it's a mixed metaphor.
Why it's not a mixed
metaphor?
So
it is. Think about it, right? She says, okay, so did you ever know that you're my hero?
Yeah.
You could fly higher than an eagle.
But you are the wind beneath my wings. It's you could fly higher than me, but because you're so kind of modest and supportive, you've chosen to be beneath me, supporting me. And when you watch the movie, you'll understand it.
Oh, so you could have been the eagle, but I'm the eagle.
You can fly higher than an eagle, but you've chosen to be the wind beneath my wings. You're everything I wish I could be.
I thought she was saying you're flying higher than an eagle, but no, actually, I'm the eagle and you're underneath me.
Dave, you need to watch the movie and you need to check yourself. And I'm so excited. Take away wine, beaches. I'm here for it.
To answer your earlier question, I don't know anything about this movie except that potential spoiler alert for anyone who cares. I think one of them dies. Does one of them die?
I'm not telling
or something?
you.
And then it's a big old... that's why it's a timeless tearjerker.
I'm not telling you anything.
You
definitely have heard Otto Titzling. You've heard me sing it.
No, what? What's Otto Titzling? What are you saying? That sounds like...
I'm almost positive as well that Blossom, aka Amy from The Big Bang Theory, plays a young Bette Midler in this. Oh. But I'm just working on memory there. Because I have to say, I haven't seen Beaches myself in about 15 to 20 years. So I'm brimming with excitement.
Oh God, I hope it doesn't let you down.
It won't let me down.
I've never seen you this excited for any
never
movie.
let me down. I know it won't already. So we just need a box of
Come on, let's put on this stupid
when
movie
when we come back, Dave's going to be crying. I absolutely guarantee you.
But hang on. First of all, it's very easy to make me cry in a movie.
That's why I've guaranteed it.
I cry at every movie, and this is called a timeless tearjerker.
It's not called. It's called Beaches.
I probably will cry. But that doesn't mean it's a good movie.
It's a brilliant movie.
All right, come on, let's watch this. People are sick of this, and I want to eat the food.
From the beginning, C.C. Bloom wanted to be a star.
That's the story of...
And Hillary Whitney was her biggest fan.
You're the best singer I ever saw.
You think I'm really, truly talented? I think you're truly talented. I've told you this at least 8 million times.
And with a friendship that began 30 years ago at the beach.
You just happen to be the most fantastic person I've ever met in my entire life.
I am?
They shared good times.
The Times says C.C. Bloom's performance is both promising and purposeful.
And bad times.
Mark! Have a drink on me. I was a big hit.
Through it all, Hillary stood by her side.
Guess who got the lead in the Falcon Players' new musical?
It's the sound of... us.
The sound of you pretending to cry.
I stopped crying about 2 minutes ago.
I'm pulling back the curtain here. You're not crying. Don't pretend to be crying.
I just cried for a solid 40 minutes.
No, you didn't.
I cried from the moment she started coughing until the movie ended.
Were you crying that whole time?
It wasn't all as loud as other parts.
Okay, full spoilers for Beaches. If anyone... I'm pretty sure everyone knows what happens at this. I haven't even seen this. Didn't know anything about it, and I knew what happens.
Okay, full spoilers. But Dave, first, give us your overall thoughts on the movie as someone who'd never seen it before.
Well, no. I was just about to say on that point. The second somebody says, incidentally, I'm finding it so difficult to shake this flu. You're like, oh, you're a goner. My thoughts on this movie.
And admit it, you were just weeping inconsolably.
No, that I do not admit that.
You were.
That's
I tried to take a photo and he wouldn't let me.
Yeah, that's because my tears. What do you mean? I tried to take a photo.
I mean, I tried to take a photo and you wouldn't let me.
Yeah, but that's like my. I don't want my tears to be broadcast all over our Instagram, unlike you seem happy to do. Cathy, if you want to know further, Cathy spent about 10 minutes getting the right cry face Instagram selfie right.
It was easy to do. I was crying for so long that I had numerous shots to take.
Excuse me, sorry. I thought, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good watch. I think I like movies that deal with people's entire lives. Do you know what I mean? That condense people's entire lives into 2 hours. I like when you get to spend that much time with characters and sort of by the end you sort of buy into the amount of time and friendship that they'd had put into each other. Do you know? So I totally bought that. But actually,
the movie does a really good job of that.
Yeah, the movie's all about their friendship, and the two actresses sell it so well from the very beginning. Like, they have good chemistry, and I like movies that are just about friendship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's actually quite a simple story in many ways. But it's interesting that I like those kind of movies because you could apply the same rationale to like biopics, traditional biopics, where they condense Johnny Cash's story into whatever. But like I always find them really hackneyed and annoying. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's a true story.
Well, I think it's because this is fiction and this has a story to tell and it tells it. Whereas when it's a biopic, often it's like they're trying to condense they're trying to make specific key moments work, and they're trying to cram something with facts, and it ends up being quite laboured.
Well, and I think with a biopic as well, it always feels like a tribute act or something. Do you know what I mean? Whereas at least this is a sort of an original story. I'm not sure. Look, I'm not going to spend time dwelling on that. But yeah, I thought it was a good watch. I bought into it. I bought into their relationship. I was invested in the characters. It sort of nipped along. It was never boring. I do take issue with you saying that I was weeping uncontrollably.
I would say inconsolably.
Absolutely not the case.
Well, I looked over and there was tears streaming down your face and you were bawling crying.
No, shut up. I was not bawling crying. I had a few silent tears at the very end.
It wasn't at the very end. It was during the wind beneath my wings.
You know, I was kind of privately caught up in the moment, and I was really sad.
It was for all of Wind Beneath My Wings, which is at least 3 minutes.
No, it was like I got really hit by the in particular. It was the daughter losing her mother really got to me, and I was really caught up in that moment, and it was really beautiful. And then you shoved your phone into my face, saying, "Let me get a photo of your tears. I can taste them." Like some sort of creepy
Well, I know
weirdo.
I didn't at all say that I could taste your tears. So that's a massive exaggeration.
Anyway, does it hold up for you after 15 years in the...
Oh my god, it held up so much. Like every part of it. So first of all, I forgot her name was Cece, and I have been called Cece a lot in my life because my name is Cathy Cullen. Bette Midler is just like, I mean, I knew she was one of my favourite actresses, but I'd kind of forgotten because she's just never in anything anymore. She is just like a triple threat, right? Like she can sing, she can act, she can dance. Like she's a proper, like full on, like movie star. She's a star in every sense of the word. Her screen presence is unbelievable. She's so vivacious. She's so emotive, and like she has such a stunning voice. And every song I knew word for word. I knew most of her lines word for word, which amazed me that I still could after all these years. And God, it just really got me thinking about Bette Midler. She's incredible in this. She's in so many movies, but like her standout roles to me, I guess, are this. Just because of when I grew up and like I was a kid in like the 80s, early 90s.
Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus, First Wives Club, and Beaches.
Oh yeah, you love First Wives Club.
I love First Wives Club, and I love Hocus Pocus as a kid.
I don't like that movie.
She's just incredible, and it's just, you know, she had the audacity to age, and therefore hasn't been in movies for a long time, really. And she's just, like, her voice is so beautiful. So, like, I think, like, it's interesting that you had thought it was Barbra Streisand, who is, like, a similarly talented woman.
I mix them up a lot, I think.
Yeah, they don't look dissimilar, and they're kind of the same era, and were in similar roles. Yeah, she's just, I mean, I think having someone of her caliber in this movie really elevates it, because it's the kind of movie in the wrong hands that could just feel very much like a TV movie. Well,
it was Lifetime remade it as a TV movie very recently, right?
Well, I don't know if it was Lifetime. I don't know who did it, but somebody did
Lifetime.
It with them. I can't remember her name, but the woman who is the voice in Frozen and who is the big Broadway star in Dinza Menzel. I'm butchering that. But yeah, anyway, I mean, I'm sure that was awful. I couldn't bear to watch that. I would never watch that. But yeah, so what I love about this is, like, it's a love story between two friends. It's about, like, you know, they fall in love with each other as a young age. They go through their ups and downs, and, like, ultimately they're there for each other, and they're, like, it's so beautiful. Like, the introduction with those two is so sweet as young girls.
Yeah, it's good.
And actually, that's how I had misremembered the movie starting. I thought it started with Cece Bloom under the boardwalk, who, I was right, it was Blossom. But it doesn't start there. It starts in the present day, which is like late 80s. That woman who is now in Big Bang Theory and was Blossom, she's phenomenal as the young Cece Bloom.
They're basic. You never doubt for a second that that's the same character.
Yeah,
it's a seamless transition.
It's a stunning performance.
They're basically like mirror roles.
Yeah, they look so alike, and they've the same like vivaciousness and like the same talent. Now, the girl could have been dubbed, but we know Bette Midler was in terms of the singing. And it's like they kick in right from there with all that, like the music just throughout this is so wonderful, and it really is a unique, like, of its time movie, because movies now, when they do have music in them, they're kind of big musicals, whereas this is a movie where the central character is a singer and therefore music's in the movie, but it feels relatively low budget. Now, I know Bette Midler would have commanded a huge salary, but you know what I mean? It was small scale, and it's just the kind of movie that isn't made anymore. It's a kind of meandering story. It's got 2 central female characters, which, as we know, is really unusual. It just follows their up and down their everyday life, including things like childbirth, falling in and out of love with various men, and just that, the singing element and all of that, and the cheesiness. Honestly, it's just not something you ever see in a movie anymore, and I think it's so of its time, and it's so wonderful. And I love how feisty Bette Midler's character Cece is, like from a young age to like at one point how feisty she is to her mother as a kid, and then it kind of rings through her life, like on her wedding day, and then at one point she's offered like a role in a movie and it doesn't feel right to her, and she's so feisty even then to the director, like she's never submissive, and she's just such a cool character. It's
an enjoyable character to watch, and I like how they sort of contrast with each other as friends, but it's the kind of character who, if I had to spend 5 minutes in a room with her, I would claw my own eyes out.
Well, she's probably that person who like would be the life and soul of a party, but like you don't want to go for breakfast with her the next day.
No, as in it's the kind of like the Billy Barry kids back in Ireland. You know, that sort of like over the top dramatic, commanding the attention in the room.
Yeah, well, she's a diva. Like, that's her prerogative, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you're going to be a Broadway star, you can be like that.
Fine, have your prerogative, but I maintain I could not spend 5 minutes in a room with
But then look what a good friend she is. And we're not mentioning the other character at all, Hilary, at all, because like she's relatively dull. But look what a good character. But you know what I mean, like it's all about Cece, but like, and their chemistry together, because they balance each other and they're yin and yang, and like, she's the wind beneath Cece's wings.
I thought her plot was almost more interesting, which is essentially, as we both said, Rachel from Friends plot. Which is,
she's Rachel from Friends, but
she,
without
very wealthy upbringing, and kind of is on a path where she has very little free will, and then rejects that and moves to New York to be with her friend to try and sort of carve her own path, which I found interesting. And then illness brings her back to her home, which I think is a very common experience for a lot of people. And then she fell back into her father's sort of expectations, and then ultimately ended up miserable. So I thought her plot was actually very, very interesting. And Bette Midler had her character had a very interesting journey in many ways as well, like that. The idea, there's a lot of interesting ideas in this movie, like the idea of like having a singular dream or goal, and this, which for her was to be the most famous person in the world from the very beginning. And then
I don't know if that was her dream, but to be like a Broadway star.
Yeah, it kind of is. She steps out of the boardwalk at the very beginning and says, "I'm Cece Bloom. I'm the most famous, brilliant person in the world."
What accent is that?
It's her
Italian.
accent. I don't know what it is. But the sort of the cost of that to your personal relationships, and I thought the very, very interesting scene for her point of view was the one with her mother, where she's bemoaning that her husband's not paying her enough attention, and the mother very clearly states, you demand too much attention, and it's a really eye-opening moment for her, and there's not enough room you don't leave enough room for relationships in your life.
Yeah, that was really interesting. And it is like, it almost fell into a bit of a trap where I was starting to get annoyed when they're kind of both into the same man, but then that resolved relatively quickly. And they do have quite a big falling out, which I didn't enjoy watching at all. But then
it's really well done.
It was really well done, because immediately after the falling out, and they said horrible things to each other, you also see that both of the characters feel awful about it. And there was a wonderful line that I wrote down, if I can find it now, where Bette Midler says to her husband, like, what will I do now? I don't have a best friend. And later on, when they discuss it, she says, "You took away our friendship without even discussing it with me." Like the
Yeah.
friendship, because from the age of 11 they've been pen pals and best friends. Like to suddenly lose that is so traumatic. And yeah, I really enjoyed how the male characters, while they were the focal point of some scenes, overall they weren't the focal point because the friendship was. But we do have to say the dad from Home Alone,
John Hurd.
looked amazing in this movie. Don't remember him ever being such
He's
a
a
box.
handsome buckle.
Yeah. And I really enjoy the bit where Bette Midler's character Cece, like, kind of briefly has a dalliance with the doctor and kind of fantasizes about herself.
Spalding
living
Gray.
This like suburban kind of doctor's wife, and then immediately when she gets a Broadway opera, she dumps him and goes
that was
back
quite
to New York.
nice / awful.
That's like true to character.
Back to your point a minute ago, though, with the them falling in love with the same man, and then Whitney's husband cheating on her. The movie does dip into soap opera at times.
it was
like,
soapy then.
with the plot stuff. But
it's the 80s as well, remember?
Yeah, but some of the best material in the world ever came out of the 80s. You
No,
can't
I know
you can't
that.
just
I'm
say
just saying,
it was
like-
the 80s, so everything was crap. That's not
But it
fair.
wouldn't have maybe... I didn't say that at all, but that,
Well,
like,
what are you trying
what
to
we're
say?
associating with, like, a soap opera aesthetic now maybe wouldn't have been so established back then. Like, they literally make love in front of a fire on, like, a shag rug. You know what I mean?
No, but that whole plot just felt like Days of Our Lives. But to be fair to the movie, there were only 2 or 3 moments where it kind of felt like that. And overall, it's the two main actors are excellent, and it's a really good character drama. And I really bought into them as characters. I thought, like, I agree with you. It's a beautiful story about a friendship, which I think is rare these days.
It's really rare.
And it's
Really rare
nice.
amongst two women. You often see kind of bro movies with two guys, but you very, very rarely see it with two women. Where it's not accumulating in some sort of romantic end with with a man.
Yeah, and they
Whereas
spent
this
their whole
is
lives
only
together.
about their friendship. That's what the end is about. And so beautiful the way... And I really like, I know you're saying like Bette Midler's character is really selfish and stuff, but she always shows up when she's needed. Like, she's there for the birth of the daughter, she's there for the death of the mother.
No, she's a
there
good,
every
she's a
step
good
of the
friend.
way. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I hate her.
No, I love her.
I
love everything about
I don't
her.
want to spend any time with her.
Do you know what
I
it
mean? I was
feels
bad enough
like?
having to like watch her.
She feels like a precursor to Carrie in Sex and the City, like stylishly and personality wise.
Yes, another character who I fucking hate. I wouldn't spend 5 minutes in a room with. One of the most selfish, abysmal, most awful characters in the world. Carrie, what's her name?
Well, no, but again, she's just a flawed person.
No, she's the kind of person who you meet at a party and they spend the entire time talking about themselves. That's exactly who it is. You know exactly who I mean. The
Yeah,
type
but
of person.
I don't mind that always. It depends on the person and how.
You
like,
don't mind that. That's the most frustrating.
no, but it depends if the
infuriating
person's
thing.
interesting enough. If the person's interesting enough, it's fine. If
No,
they're not,
because
it
it's
doesn't
not. It's not. It's if somebody thinks they're so interesting that everyone should hear about. Do you know what I mean? That's arrogance. And
Yeah,
I
well,
find
Cece
that.
Bloom is interesting enough. She can sing Auto Titsling to me, and I'll be quite happy.
I mean, just the whole thing, the whole sort of idea of CC Bloom, I found to be quite.
That's
like,
her name, like my name's
annoying.
Cece Cullen. No, it's
yeah,
not,
but yeah.
because CC stands for Cathy Cullen.
Yeah, that's like ATM machine.
I briefly toyed with them taking Dave's name when we got married because Dave's surname is Corkery, so I thought I could be Triple C, but then I gave up on that idea.
Yeah.
But that would have been cool because then I could have been CC
Oh,
Corkery.
so cool. It would have been so cool.
I'm so glad we watched it though, and it's really weird because what I was toying with in this when I was picking my movies, I was thinking like my two big favorites movies from when I was a kid are Beaches and A League of Their Own, and then it turns out Gary Marshall, is that his name?
Yeah, he directed
Gary
this.
Marshall directed this, and Penny Marshall, his sister, directed A League of Their Own. So clearly I'm a massive fan of the Marshalls.
The Marshall family.
And I think he also did like Pretty Woman.
Yeah.
And like Penny Marshall also did Big. So
Did he
again, like
do-
4 movies I love. So they are like I'm
Did some
really...
later crap as well.
He did some stuff later on, like Mother's Day and Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
that are very
oh,
good.
that's all
but
that-
we'll just forget about. We'll write those off. But Dave had seen A League of Their Own with me already, so therefore this was
It's
a better
the kind
one.
of movie, though, not to like diss Gary Marshall, and I don't know how to direct a movie, but it's like there's no real style or substance to it as such.
To this movie,
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's very well executed and the musical numbers are all kind of well done, but it's like it doesn't really have a look to it. It's
Are you
It's
kidding
just
me? It
kinda
hasn't. It
competent.
looks like 100% pure 80s in a time capsule. The 80s
Yeah, but
aesthetic
you know what I mean?
is
There's no
awesome.
style or flair to the sort of the.
I think
the
there's
way it
style and
looks.
flair. At one
It's just-
point, Bette Midler
it's just
stands
a
in
sort
front.
of story brought to
At
the
one
screen.
point, Bette Midler stands in front of 3 portraits of herself in her garishly painted
that was a
bright
good shot.
red
Yeah,
apartment in New York City in the 80s.
Yeah,
Like
that was
it's like dripping 80s. I think there's a really strong aesthetic. Actually, I really disagree with you. And Bette Midler's hair
Yeah,
changes.
That's not an aesthetic that he decided. That's just the 80s that was there. It was contemporary.
So you think everyone in the 80s had an apartment that was painted bright red and had portraits of themselves?
No, obviously that's very deliberate because that's an expression of her, the extreme sort of stupid gaudy lifestyle that she had chosen. That's somebody who's come into loads of money buying
Yeah.
loads of tack.
That's what I do
So,
if I
like-
had loads of money.
Yeah, fine. No, that's a very deliberate choice. But I'm saying, on a whole, as the movie, you can't say to me, "Oh, the movie looked so 80s." Like he made that choice. No, it was 1988. It just looked contemporary. There's no.
Okay, well, I think the moneyed aesthetic he did really well. I also think the wealth, the visuals of just wealth in that world, he did really well. And I also think, like, okay, there may not have been ever like any clever camera work or anything, because there wasn't. But like, for a director to draw this kind of emotional response that this movie has, like universally, like I was messing around on Instagram as we were watching it and saying like we're watching beaches and stuff, and already loads of people have been responding with like crying faces, like, oh my god, I love this movie so much. Like, this movie draws such a strong reaction in people, and while you may think the director doesn't have, like, you know, he's not Martin Scorsese or something,
Hang on, no,
this
no.
is eliciting a really emotional response, and is like one of the most popular movies of its genre ever made.
Oh, I was only stating, like, I didn't want to sound like the man's talented, and everyone who was involved in this movie.
No, it's fine. You can sleep on the sofa
completely
tonight.
Executed it perfectly. I'm just saying, as a movie, and it doesn't even necessarily need to be stylish, but it's not, it's like it just isn't. Do you know what I mean? It's just like,
Absolutely beg to disagree.
well, you think this movie is like interesting and stylish?
I think the
In
style
the
of the
way
movie is
it's-
interesting.
Yeah, but it's a different use of that word. There's nothing sort of particularly creative in the way this story is delivered. Maybe that's a deliberate choice because it's a performance-led thing.
It just depends what you mean by stylish.
I don't even want to be having this
You're the one who
conversation.
brought it up.
I just meant it as an incidental point.
Okay, you come back to me this time next week when you're still crying about Wind Beneath My Wings. You will never hear that song again and not cry.
I will absolutely hear that song and not cry. I don't. And also, listeners, I was like, I teared up a little bit because it's really sad. It's sad, and I bought into the 3 characters, and it was a sad moment. Cathy's. I'm sorry, Cathy. It's not going to affect me as profoundly as you, because you watch it 3 times every day.
That's what you think.
For your entire
That's fine.
life.
Good luck to you if you think that. When you least suspect it, at a time of my choice, I'm going to suddenly play Wind Beneath My Wings and see what happens to you. Because it's a trigger once you've seen this movie.
And then you're going to shove your phone in my face.
I will. But it will be a trigger.
Film your tears.
And I'll play it when you're like right before you've got a really important presentation for work or something.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's worthy of sabotaging my own husband's career.
Well, that can't happen because all my presentations at work start with that song anyway. So
What about we
it's
haven't...
like it's the equivalent of like taking a little bit of poison every day so you become immune. So I listen to that every morning.
What about the other musical numbers? What do you think of them? Otto Titzling.
Otto Titzling.
Yeah. Otto
how
Titzling,
does it go?
inventor or kraut, had nothing to get very worked up.
I liked the line. Do you wear a titzling or do you wear a brassiere? Yeah. I mean, it looked like a laugh. I enjoyed that she described it as it's a bit bawdy and sexual. And then what's her name? And Whitney and her husband was sitting, and the husband was like, "Oh my god!"
Like, it didn't really make sense that Whitney married someone who was such an asshole.
So offended.
Like, your best friend's in Broadway and is in like a vaguely titillating, no pun intended, show, and you just sit there scoffing and rolling your eyes.
He was like a cookie cutter cliche. He could have just been from Days of Our
He's
Lives.
terrible.
He was the most underwritten,
Yeah, I completely
pointless
agree.
character. He was only there to provide Whitney.
He was only there to
some
cheat on
tragedy.
her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they didn't flesh him out at all. Whereas John Hurd's character, he was given motivation and was reacting to sort of her star status and had his own little character beats. But Your man was just a waste of space.
I love when Cece's writing letters to Hillary and she's saying, I don't know what his problem is. My career's going so well.
Yeah. The movie makes light of how self-centered she is, to be fair.
Yeah.
I still find it kind of like...
What about Under the Boardwalk?
Character it's kind of hard to like, but they do pull it off.
What about Under the Boardwalk? The start, that's
what was
lovely.
that one?
When she's under the boardwalk.
Oh, I thought it was a song called Under the
Under the Boardwalk. Oh my god, Alexa's starting to talk about it.
Shut up!
I don't know if this will come up on our recorder, but Alex.
What is she? This is
Alexa,
terrifying.
stop!
That was so scary. I hate her. Can we plug her
I
off?
thought we had her unplugged. Anyway,
That's so creepy when she does that.
Dave, thank you for joining me on the 150th episode of the Cinema.
This part 1.
Part
Still
1.
got part 2 to come, honey.
Is it part A or part 1?
Actually, this is going to be the only episode because my choice was also beaches.
Let's watch it again.
It's covered up two episodes in one go. I gotta say, a few things I did enjoy from this that are things that don't really exist anymore, like but were like commonplace here, like letter writing.
Yeah,
I feel like is not really a thing anymore, and it's such an integral part of this.
I know, when you say I used to write letters so much as a kid, and I can't remember the last time I wrote one.
But there's a real like art to letter writing. It's like such a sort of lost craft in a way, like because the idea of just sitting down and like crafting this thing and writing it and putting all this care into it and then sending it to someone and then they get the excitement of receiving it and reading it, and it's like, I mean, if that movie was made today, they'd be texting, and it would just be like, texting is just so...
And Bette Midler says that, like, you've no idea how much your letters enhanced my life.
Yeah.
Like, I felt so special every time I got one. And when I was really young, when I was, like, maybe 8 or 9, I was probably trying to emulate this movie. I met this girl on, like, a summer holiday somewhere. We, like, rented a mobile home in Ireland.
Were you smoking a cigarette under the boardwalk?
I was, yeah. And we exchanged addresses, and we used to write to each other. Now, not as long as these two, but we did for a couple of years. We used to write to each other, like knowing we would never meet up.
And that girl is Jennifer Lawrence.
No, but I remember that. It was so exciting, and like, I mean, we could have been writing to anyone. Like, we had no connection, like not like these two. But like with these two, they do end up writing from when they're like 11 till they're about 25 before they meet. Like, it's a really long time again before they meet. Like, they don't even recognize each other physically. Yeah, you're right. The letter writing stuff is really lovely.
But also, like, you've got this. Like, at the very end, after the funeral, Bette Midler's sitting there with this, like, a whole lifetime of letters.
Yeah.
Like, and she's reading through them, and what, like, lovely memories to have. Whereas,
I remember when we first started going out, we wrote to each other a couple of times when we were on holidays and stuff. I don't know where those letters are, though.
Home.
Do you?
I do, yeah. Yeah.
God, but then you'd read them and you'd like cringe. But
you
I
were
guess
on holidays with your dad. I remember you were sending me letters. It was nice.
But I guess it's
you
like
drew a little picture in at the end of one.
It's like, I guess if there's enough distance between them, you would stop cringing and start being nostalgic again. But maybe if you just read them like 2 years later, you'd be like, oh God, burn them.
Oh no, yeah, it's the kind of thing like home video that becomes invaluable decades later.
Yeah.
But like, it's the kind of thing, but it's like, that's a lost art because we're all in communication all the time now, so we don't spend time at those things. So like, if you know, if you were sitting there after the death of your best friend, what are you going to do? Like, read over your old messages? It doesn't seem to have the same sort of
guess you would, but I know what you're right. It's not in their handwriting. They haven't touched it. It's not tangible.
It's so impersonal.
Yeah.
The other thing was going to a library to look up an illness instead of just Googling it, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
you know, that moment where she goes
researching
to the library to research her own illness instead of just, you know, Googling it and finding
and it's
the
really
worst
devastating,
possible diagnosis.
because she finds out how serious it is, and it's like we would now just Google it in 4 seconds and it just wouldn't. Well, it's the same result ultimately. It's really like I mean I obviously knew what was coming, but I didn't quite remember when, because I didn't quite remember the pacing of the movie. And when that scene when she says to her daughter, I just can't shake this flu, it was from then on that I just cried for the rest of the movie.
And I thought she handled that really well. Like, the movie handled that really well. Her coming to grips with her own mortality and not watching her daughter grow up, and then the jealousy that she felt watching her friend be able to play with her daughter and provide those things. Like there's a lot of really good stuff in this movie. I thought it was really, really good.
And it's fascinating because I did a quick Google because I was interested in what like critics had ever said about it, because I never read anything critical about this. And this is like quite something on Rotten Tomatoes. So for the aggregate, they'll put like together an average of critic scores and an average of audience scores. And this is quite something. I've never seen a 50% gap. So critic score is 38% and audience score is 88%. But if you look at the numbers, it's only 40 critic scores, which happens a lot with older movies. Whereas the audience score is from 71,000 ratings.
Well, 40 is still a pretty decent sample size.
Yeah, but it's interesting that 71,000 people have done an audience score in it. Like, that's how people are so passionate about this movie that they've literally made the effort of going into Rotten Tomatoes and doing that. Like, it is a movie that like profoundly affects a lot of people, and that I think people have a lot of love for. So I'm really glad we watched it. Yeah,
I liked it.
And I messaged my little sister, I messaged my family group, and I said like, oh my god, Jackie, remember how much we used to watch this movie? And she messaged back, we wore that tape out watching it so much. So emotional. But anyway, Dave, have you figured out what we're watching for yours yet? We'll be doing that in a couple of days.
I'm mulling over a few options.
Mulling it, okay.
Yeah,
but we'll release them both on the same day, and then I wonder which will get more downloads.
Oh, you make a competition out of everything.
It depends on how populist your choice is.
I'll tell you, my choice is going to be a lot more populist than Beaches.
Beaches is incredibly populist. We keep saying the word populist. We're not right-wing populists.
Yeah,
it's
what are you
very
talking
popular.
About? All right, well, now I'm into the competition. Well, you're going down, Beaches. So look, you will have this episode available, and you can go straight ahead now and listen to whatever the other one is,
which we'll record in a few days,
which will be a few days from us, but mere moments from you.
Yes.
If you want to double bill.
Oh, and we didn't say what we got in our takeaway. It's from this amazing Korean place.
Oh well, yeah, apparently people do care.
Yeah, people do care when we talk about
what
food.
we eat, because I give out to you for talking about pasta for 10 minutes in one of our previous episodes, and somebody said somebody berated me on Twitter.
Yeah, we got this really nice Korean place we like, and I got Dolsap Bibimbap, which if you haven't heard of it, you need to get into it because it's amazing. While Dave got a more boring katsu curry.
Yeah, but you can't go wrong with a katsu curry.
You can't. But you can definitely not go wrong with the Dolsap Bibimbap. Tofu.
We've got to end.
We got to end
this podcast.
I'm tired. Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to us for 150 episodes.
It's a lot of episodes.
Potentially. Or, well, thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah. And we're like very consistent with one a week, because we started this podcast in May 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we it's exactly basically 52 a year we release, because we're now on 150. We're very solid. Like, I can't believe we managed to do an episode a week with 2 full-time jobs and a baby, and clearly no organisational capacity around what we're going to do with it. So we'll do a live show, because actually lots of people have messaged us saying that they'd like to go to a live show. We will do one at some point. We just need to get organised.
But thank you everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for continuing to listen to us, and thanks for talking to us. We love talking to you all on social media and emails, and
thanks for supporting and subscribing to us on iTunes. So if you subscribe on iTunes, it means that as soon as we have a new episode, it drops straight into your feed. And thank you for all the reviews we got in the last week, which are always hugely appreciated.
So big thank you everyone, and thank you Cathy. Thank you for being my co-host and wife, in that order. Thanks
Dave for being my co-host, baby daddy and husband, in that order.
Don't like the phrase baby daddy. Oh, come on.
Bye.
All right, let's go. Bye.
Did you ever know that you're my hero? And